This is Leah with Flow Acrylic. I'm going to be doing a poured painting or fluid acrylic painting. This is Masonite or MDF, which has been treated with a couple layers of spray gesso. So we want to make sure that it's level, which it is. So we're good to go. You can get these for like $1. Not expensive. The colors I'm using today are Primary Blue. I'm using Premier Acrylic Colors Yellow Ochre, also known as the color of newborn baby poop. I had an old bottle of Royal Gold that I mixed some white in with a little bit of yellow ochre just to make kind of a creamy, because I'm actually not going to use white today. And I've mixed silicone oil in with this, ta-da, as well as, of course, water. You always want to water down your paints with Flow Acrylic so that they move. I saved the yellow ochre so you could see about the consistency that you want. I'm not sure how well you're seeing that, but the consistency of the paint is everything. So this is my yellow ochre that I have watered down. And then this is a watered down Folk Art Pure Gold on their metallic series. So I'm not totally sure what I'm going to do at this point. I have my torch. This is actually Hot Shots 2. Hot Shots Part 2. Hey, does anybody else love that movie? I watched a lot of like Naked Gun, Hot Shots, stuff like that when I was a kid. And then this is just a straw that I use. This is by no means like a special artist straw. This is a baby bottle insert because I don't really have straws in my house, so any straw will do. I'll probably demonstrate a few different techniques. So we'll start with some puddles. So just going to start with a few puddles. These little squeeze bottles are actually for like cake and candy decorating, but I really like them because you can control the flow like that without dripping. I find that with the cups, you often drip when you don't mean to. Okay, that gold is actually really thick. I'm seeing that it's not flowing, so I might add a little bit of water to this. What happens when some of your paint is thicker than others, or thicker or thinner, when you don't have the same viscosity, the heavier paint will sink to the bottom, which, let's face it, is a shame because gold is lovely, and especially since I poured that first. All the other paint is just going to leave it there. Like a thinner paint will spread all over, and that gold is just kind of stay stuck there. So I'm gonna just trying to show you some different techniques because there's a lot of flow acrylic artists out there. So I'm gonna spread those out because I'm a cheapskate and gold paint is a little more expensive. So I'm gonna spread that out a little bit. Do some blue. And let's see, I may even go around. Let's see how this gold, yeah, I think it's still too thick. This is one of those things that you just kind of feel out as you practice. I'm sure that there are some people who just get lucky and make really beautiful paintings on their first try, but for the most part, it's just a matter of practicing. So that's thinner, that's much better. That. This, oh crikey. Sorry guys, you can see how messy my ground underneath is. Okay. This is basically like my white. I didn't want to use real straight up white on this, just because. So like I said, I'm going to do a combination. So this is the leftover blue that I had and the leftover kind of off-white. So I'm actually going to pour that. This is what they call a dirty pour. But I'm going to, like I said, I'm just mixing some different techniques. That's kind of cool. So that you can see what happens. Here's my favorite yellow ochre baby poop. I watched a lot of Bob Ross as a kid, and he always used yellow ochre, but I will say yellow ochre is a fabulous color for blending. If you want to warm up something a little bit, you want to warm up a color or dull it, yellow ochre is really nice. Here's some little dots. Let's see what this does. Ooh. Okay. Pour a little bit more in there. So, trying to find one that has, this is the one that has silicone in it, so it's going to react. Putting in silicone oil causes, let's see if I can show you here. I really should be using gloves. Sometimes I pour it, crikey, right on the painting. See what that does? It's like, don't ask me why I made that sound effect, but you can see that's what people like using silicone oil. So I'm going to let that kind of take effect. Then I'm going to kind of manipulate the paint a little bit by breaking these cells. I'm going to put some straight up ochre right here. Put some over here. One of the reasons that I chose these colors is because blue and orange are opposite each other on the color wheel. So that makes them complementary colors, which means when they're next to each other, they make the other appear their brightest, their most, not brightest, most intense. So by doing that, It actually hurts your eyes. You know what this phenomenon is when you see somebody with a red sweater that's red and green striped, and it's like, ouch, like it kind of hurts your eyes to look at them. That's because that red is making that green look as intense as it can be, and vice versa. And it just kind of continues in this, like, it's just hard. I think it has to do with like the rods and cones in your eyes, but I haven't got that specific. Better that scientific, sorry. I'll put some more pools there. See with that silicone oil? The silicone oil has only been added to this one. So that kind of off-white painting. I'll do a little more gold. More of this. And some spots of blue. All right. And I'm gonna do some silicone oil. For the record, I've actually never seen anyone do straight silicone oil on their painting. So I don't know if I'm like taking my life into my hands. I'm almost afraid to torch it because I don't like when it catches on fire. I'm just gonna stand back, pray the best for my camera. It's gonna help some of those cells pop. Okay, now, yeah, see those little dots? That's the silicone oil. Okay, I'm gonna pour it. I really did not have a plan for how I was gonna do this. Now I haven't really thinned this out very well. Okay, it's already getting kind of, let's see here. Can you see that? Okay, so because I love yellow ochre so much, I'm just gonna add the rest on like that. And kind of guide this paint. It's kind of nice to have parts of, in my opinion, of course, to have parts of your painting to have a little less action going on. One of the problems that I have with a lot of flow acrylic paintings is they're so busy, which is fine, you know, it's just a style thing. But this is what's called a swipe method. You see what's happening as I swipe this? See how that blue is peeking out? That's a silicone thing. By the way, it is silicone. Silicone, traffic cone, not silicon. Please stop saying silicon. Everybody in the world that says silicon. Is that anybody else's pet peeve, or am I the only one that like secretly dies inside every time somebody says silicon? And I really want to correct them, but I don't want to be that girl, so I don't. Okay. I'm going to use my straw here. So that's really bad that I'm dipping that in because I'm going to get paint on the blue tip. So later, when I don't want it, it's going to show up. Okay. Actually, I'm going to break those cells just like that. I'm going to do some swiping over here. I'm sort of doing this to show you what the different methods. So like one method that's very popular is called the dirty pour. And that's not an insult on someone who is less fortunate. My husband always I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do a dirty pour paint. It's like, oh my gosh, like you are like a horrible person. Like, no, it's P-O-U-R. So that's pretty crazy, right? Okay, this over here, this is like a little bit too, this looks like kind of a different painting. So I'm probably going to flip this around. You getting all that? Okay, and I might blow some of the paint up into that. I gotta clean my hands too. Okay, so I'm gonna use my straw. See what that does? This is kind of a boring area, but I take my straw. You can also try to make sure the edges of your board are all covered. Okay, here's an empty spot that didn't get. So what's kind of nice about flow acrylic, it's just pretty forgiving. You can kind of just grab your finger and swipe spots. Okay, I'm going to push, if there's a lot of action going here, I'm going to push some of that over here. So there's not a whole lot going, if I push down that paint, there's not much going on underneath it. There we go. So I much prefer using the straw method. If you use your finger, you really mess the paint up. It really looks like you swiped your finger through. So doing a straw, blowing some air on it really helps to spread out the paint without kind of looking like you spread out the paint. There's a spot, open spot right there. You can kind of gently mix paint together. Okay, so in my opinion, this painting is way too busy. There's like way too much craziness going on here. I much prefer a very like simple painting. Also, these colors, like on their own, I like how these have mixed with each other and created these kind of natural looking earth tones. These really bright blues and really bright ochre look unnatural to me, so I'm gonna try to break those up a little bit and try to mix the paint by blowing it.
Okay. I have to kind of stand back for a little bit and see. The paint on here is pretty thick. I think with my next one I'm going to thin out the paint a lot more.
Okay, let's try torching some parts. See, I don't know if you saw. Oh, you can't see down there. Shoot. So you can see this torch isn't doing much. There's not a whole lot of silicone in there. And there's no silicone. Just silicone. Okay, well, I'm not over the top pleased with it, but that's what it's going to be. Thanks for watching.